Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. We have a guest today. She's been on for the last 2 years.
Yes, ma'am.
For Black History Month. Her name is Shemika Renee.
Yes.
And she does characters, historical characters. She's blown us away every single time. This year we've got some special things going on. So let's start us off. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm so happy to be back, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
So yes, as Black History Month is coming up, I have been afforded the opportunity with 9 different performance opportunities to go to various places. Some will be in historic homes this year. Some will be at your local library here up in Prince George's County. There are a few where I will be performing for young people down in Charles County. But I'm really excited about this year's slate of performances because with the different locations, it affords me the opportunity to bring new figures to life, to bring back figures that I've done before, but in a different environment. And it will give the audience members who come a different experience. In one location, in particular, Linville Manor, the audience will have the ability to travel through some of the rooms with me as I transform from one historical figure to another. So even though it will be inside of a historical home, there will still be costume changes, there will still be the sound effects, and the setting itself of being in this historic home will lend to a different ambiance of really immersing yourself in the history.
Now, going through these homes, of course, brought to mind characters for you that you created. What characters have you created for this historical environment?
Well, particularly for Linville Manor, I've been speaking with Wynn Brewer, who is the proprietor of Linville Manor, and there are documentation that they have of people who were enslaved in the home, and so we will utilize the information that we have for at least one woman that we know that was enslaved there, and she will serve as the introduction to the Miss Story's Living History piece in that particular weekend, February 22nd and 23rd. There's also the opportunity, because of the size of the dining room, that I'm going to be bringing to life the history of what has been a controversial topic the last few years. I will be honoring the various actresses who portrayed at different times the character of Aunt Jemima. And so there's a lot of feelings.
Yes.
When you even say the name, they changed the name of the company to the Pearl Milling Company, which is actually about the process of how they milled the wheat. That's not even somebody's actual name. But there were many women who were paid to portray the character. And so we're going to get into that and to honor those women who made those career choices, who were paid, who provided for their families by being paid to portray this character, who represents the women in our heritage and our ancestors who were disparaged.
Well, what's the true story of Aunt Jemima? All a lot of us know is the woman on the pancake box.
Yes, the caricature.
The caricature with the head piece
wrap.
And with the head wrap. What is the true story? How did they come up with that character?
There are a lot of different stories on how that character came to be, but they wanted to invoke a feeling of nostalgia for that time. They wanted to present a character that they thought would be welcoming, that would invoke the feeling and the desire of wanting to eat, of breakfast, of home, of a time gone by, for lack of a better term. And so they hired women to portray this character that they created, this drawing that they created. And so she's not based off of one particular person, but more of an ideal.
And also the idea of being served by this black woman was more comfortable, more homey.
Perhaps. I wasn't in the marketer's mind.
Of course.
I can't.
But that's what it brings
Right,
to
that's
mind
what
to
it-
me, that made them feel comfortable being served by this black woman, good food.
Right, because that is who was taking care of their families.
Yes.
And healthier looking black women are synonymous with good food and good cooks. And that is what they wanted to utilize to market, to bring people to this particular brand and to the pancakes. And I suppose in their minds, using the Pearl Milling Company at that point they wanted to put a face with it. And there's so many feelings that come up when talking about this subject and about the character that they created, even down to the image of the head wrap invokes negative feelings within our community.
What feelings come up for you?
It's a challenge. There are feelings of apprehension because I don't want to say something or present something that is going to be negatively received by our community. I want to celebrate our history. The truth is that we used to wear head wraps at various points in history for various reasons. The women, our ancestors who had to work in the fields, wore the head wraps to protect their hair from the bugs and the pests that were in the agriculture that they were responsible for tending to and growing and picking. So it was a way of protecting their hair. Then there became, especially in Louisiana and the South, there was a time period where we were forced by law to cover our hair because they wanted to stop the appearance of our exoticism. And so they felt we were too ornate or we were too much, and so they wanted to bring us back down. So they created Tignon laws, which stated that we had to have our hair covered and we had to have our hair wrapped, which is why now we have the history of having so many beautiful headscarves and head wraps and pins and brooches and flowers that we add to those scarves, because if you want us to hide what our natural beauty is, we're still going to find a way to be beautiful and creative.
And you know, black women, we can't just wear a head. We got to add some flavor.
We have to make it our own.
Yes,
we have to bring our
yes.
personality out. So even though they tried to create these laws to stifle us and our creativity and our personality and our exuberance and our spirit, we still found ways to overcome. And so even within that history, I want to link that together with our past. And as I've always tried to do as Miss Story, is to honor and celebrate our ancestors. Because as I have said all the time, and I've said here before, that our ancestors were not enslaved because they were bad people. It was bad that other people enslaved them. And for us to acknowledge and be proud of what we are as a community and who we are as a people, we need to honor and recognize that we have been trained to not speak about our ancestors. We have been trained to not talk about these subjects because it is hard, because it is ugly. But our ancestors were not ugly. They were beautiful. They were strong. We are here because they survived. And so that is my mission, and that is why in this season of Miss Story's Living History, there will be a few performances where we delve into some additionally challenging subjects, but we still want to embrace the humanity and the love and the compassion for our ancestors that these topics are about and represented.
And you know, over the last couple of years, I'm sure you've seen efforts to erase the history that you're trying to teach them. And a lot of these things you just said are things I didn't know, and things a lot of people
Because
don't
it's not
know.
taught.
Exactly, and the fact that it's trying to be erased now, that's what makes what you're doing more urgent than ever before.
And I feel that urgency, and I've been asked how I'm able to continue doing what I'm doing, and am I fearful that with the changes that are happening in the education system that I won't be able to continue doing what I'm doing.
Exactly.
And my response to that is, I'm a performer. I'm a performer who educates. And so there is something that is less threatening, I believe, with that. It is also more inviting and enticing because I bring the history with, I hope, thoughtfulness, humor, along with the truth. And it gives people something to talk about. And just even small conversations like this, it allows me to share what I've learned because I didn't know. I thought that Aunt Jemima particularly was just an animated figure that had been drawn for the purpose of selling this product. I did not realize that there were 9 to 11 women who portrayed her at various times, either on radio stations, in commercials, at world fairs, and I want to honor them. I want to say their names.
And it's making them real. They were humans. They had families.
Yes.
They had to make a living. They had a talent.
Yes.
And they chose to use their talent in this particular way. But
Yes.
it just brings a humanness to them. They're not a caricature.
They are not, and that is very important to me because too often we read their names or we read the names of our history figures and we read whatever sentence or paragraph is there and then we move on. And they have faces and families and hopes and dreams, and they were real living, breathing people, but because they were in our past, they're words on a page to us now, but they have descendants who know that those people were in their family and they honor and respect them. And it's time that their family members are recognized and acknowledged and seen by the rest of the world.
Let's talk about some of your more prominent characters that you've played over the years. Do you have a favorite? I guess that's like saying, do you have a favorite child? You know what I mean?
I understand that, and I'm asked that question a lot. There are a few figures that are easier for me to slip into because I've been doing them for so long, or their personalities are so large. Harriet Tubman comes to mind, Madam C.J. Walker, Bessie Coleman. Those are 3 that are often asked for the most, requested the most. Those are the women that I can slide into their voices and the mannerisms of how I interpret them a lot easier. Harriet is perhaps my most fun, even though her story is one of the most traumatic stories, if you know her full story. But it allows those opportunities, especially in school settings, when little ones are a little more rambunctious or not paying as much attention. I can redirect them back to paying attention to what is happening without breaking character, and that's often a lot of fun.
Now, who are you dressed as today?
So this is my portrayal, this is my character of Ms. Story. So whenever I perform any iteration of Ms. Story's living history, Ms. Story is actually a pun for mystery. And I say history doesn't have to be a mystery if you learn it. So Ms. Story is the embodiment of a history book. If you get so engrossed, when you're reading a book and you get so engrossed, you feel that you are one of the characters, you feel like you are right there and everything is happening around you. That is my goal, that when you come to a Ms. Story presentation or performance, that you feel that you have met the people, that you have gone on their journey with them, that you have taken a peek into their life with them. And so that is what this costume is, because I usually close out the larger performances dressed as Miss Story and give some words of encouragement, hopefully words of wisdom, and that's how I close out the show.
You know what I love about having you on is you're definitely an example of how you can make your dream come true. When we first met, you were hoping to do what you're doing right now. Tell us that story. How did you make your dream into a reality?
It started literally 20 years ago when I started going to my children's school portraying different historical figures. And over time, my friends in the theater community challenged me to make it bigger, to go broader. I've been in various situations where people in my life who have ministered to me, who have prayed for me and prayed over me, and they have said that that there are bigger callings on my life. And I truly believe that this is one of my callings. And over the years, my career has taken many different twists and turns, but I believe that I am where I'm supposed to be able to share these stories of people. And even my experience doing my own one-woman show has opened doors for me in other avenues within the community theater, that now I've had the opportunity to assistant direct a show that opens up on this Friday.
Yes, it's called Chicken and Biscuits.
Yes.
My favorite.
It is a rather wonderful meal combination. It was written by the fabulous Douglas Lyons. It premiered on Broadway in 2019, and then of course COVID hit. But in this area, in the Charles County area, it was performed a couple of years ago at St. Charles High School with a group of wonderful high school students. My daughter was in the cast, and the director for that production brought it to the Port Tobacco Players in La Plata, Maryland, and presented his case and why he wanted to perform Chicken and Biscuits on their stage. And so his application was accepted. The director is Timothy LaBelle, and I'm the assistant director. It's produced by the wonderful Sheila Raybury Hyman.
Now, what is it about?
So it is about a family that comes together on the event of their patriarch's passing. So the patriarch of the family was the pastor of a church, and he has passed away. So the play itself takes place on the day of his funeral. And we all know that how emotionally invested funerals are, and family coming in that may not have seen each other for a while. And there's many dynamics to the family, and it shows how this event brings this family together physically and also emotionally. So I know some people may hear the title Chicken and Biscuits and there may be some apprehension, like, what is this about? But if you come see the show, you'll find out why it's titled that. But it is a comedy, even though there is the element of the circumstances for why the family is there. But it's a show with heart. It's a show with connection and love and emotion. And there's a message that is there. And we're going to take you to church. Douglas Lyons, the playwright, says that every time Chicken and Biscuits is performed, a black church is built. And we have built a beautiful one, and we want people to come out and see us at Port Tobacco Players in La Plata, January 17th to February 2nd.
Is it for everyone? Would you say?
I would say that parental guidance is to be suggested. There are some themes, there's some language, and there's some usage of substances. Very brief, alluded to, but so maybe not for children under the age of 12, 13.
Now, are you performing in this?
I have a performance aspect to it. Okay. I will say that. But this is my first foray in assistant directing, and I have learned a lot. And the cast that has come together is a fabulous cast, and some of them are new, some of them are veterans, but it's a beautiful cohesion that has come together, and it's a beautiful story that needs to be told. You'll laugh, you may cry, but you'll have a good time.
Now, do you like this, what you're doing with this, better than or it's just different?
It's different. It's all performance. It's all ministering to people's hearts. There are times when people may not go to they may not come to a lecture. They may not go to a church service. They may not go to a classroom environment. But when you're performing for them, you can connect with them on a different level. They can laugh and realize, oh, I've learned something. Somebody that they may see, a character that they may see on screen or on stage may remind them of themselves or a family member. It may prompt them to reconnect with somebody that maybe they've lost touch with. So it's all a form of art and creativity. And I heard this saying recently, and it's something that I laugh at, but it's true. Earth without art is just
True.
And that is what I love about what I do, about community theater, professional theater, film, television. It's all art. It's embracing it and pulling it into a part of you and bringing a part of yourself to that art and just creating something beautiful.
Art is also in these costumes. How do you do research on the costumes? Then you make them. How does that work?
Well, a lot of my costumes for my historical figures, I go to thrift stores and I do research. I decide the time period of the figure that I want to portray. I decide the age that I'm going to portray. So then I look at the fashion of what they would have worn in their financial situation, their demographic, their age, that era, what would have been appropriate for them to wear. This in particular,
because I think I want that. I could hook that up. No.
So I did not make this robe at all. A friend of mine, Melody Sciarra, who is a costumer who has done many beautiful pieces down at Port Tobacco Players. I met her almost 20 years ago. She made this beautiful piece, and I asked her if I could purchase it from her. It was inspired by another art form that she had seen, and I had it hanging up for years. I may have worn it maybe once or twice to a Maryland Renaissance Festival. And as I was trying to create my vision of what Ms. Story herself, the character, would look like, the first time I did the show, I created a costume, but it just, as the children would say, it wasn't hitting. And so I wanted something that gave the feeling of a book. And I remembered the cloak, and I thought about how the color of it, the stitching, it looks like an old-fashioned leather book.
Yeah.
And so that is why I wear the white dress underneath it, so that it looks like a book that you could open up.
It's lovely.
Thank you.
It is absolutely lovely. And with the other costumes, you make part of it, and the other part comes from thrift.
Yes, so I will go to a thrift store and I'll find maybe a large skirt. I've got more hoop skirts than I can even possibly count. It's a bad habit that I have. But I find skirts, or I'll find high-necked collar blouses, and then I will find different types of hats and embellish them and adorn them the way that they need to be. Different accessories, pocket watches, shot lanes, which are chains that had different tools that a lady of the house or a woman of those eras would have, the different little sewing pieces, the scissors, the keys, whatever will allow the audience to take that step back in time with me, so that they feel that they are truly meeting that person in the flesh. It's often funny when I go to schools and I'm wearing a costume from the time period of the 1700s or the 1800s, and it's high-necked and may have a corset and a big billowing skirt, and the little girls will always want to see my shoes because they are always convinced that I'm wearing either Crocs or tennis shoes underneath this big puffy dress, and then I will let them see my feet, and they will be surprised that I'm either wearing history-appropriate shoes or history-appropriate styled boots, and they'll say, "You tricked us, we thought you were wearing tennis shoes." I said, down to my toes, I'm going to be dressed as the person.
So where do we go from here?
So you can find me on Facebook at Ms. Stories Living History, and I will be posting up the events that I have coming up in February. I have a walk planned in La Plata in March. There is a performance that will be at the Marietta House in April. That is a one evening event. And then there are some events that are going to be coming up around Juneteenth, back up here in Prince George's County. So check out Ms. Stories Living History on Facebook, and my events will be posted there.
And we will also make sure that we put your information on the credit, so if people are interested in contacting you or figuring out what you're doing and where you're going, you're still doing schools?
Yes, if somebody reaches out to me and they want me to do their school.
Because that was your start, right?
That was my start, was going to various schools. So I do elementary, middle school, high school, private schools. I do colleges. If people want me to come to their churches, if you have an organization, I go to various meetings, senior centers. If you have an organization or an event where you would like a historical figure to be portrayed, I have a list of over 25 women in American history. I have a growing list of world history, historical figures that I'm starting to incorporate. And if you have somebody that you would like to see portrayed that's not on my list, I'm happy to do the research and bring them to life. I do not perform as living, active historical figures. So people who are actively, especially political figures, that are actively in the community and in the world right now. If they are alive, I don't portray them.
And you know, there's enough. We need to know that history.
Yes.
So let's not worry about that. Let's talk about our ancestors and the contributions and honoring them. And it is an honor today to have you here with me again.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully we'll see you again next year.
I hope so. Yes, indeed.
You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Shemika Renee, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day, everybody.